because if you even look at the story of Abraham and Sarah, they still believed. They still had faith.
Yeah.
But it makes it seem like, you know what, this decision I'm making, it makes bad decisions look like it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it makes it look like, you know, maybe this is the way God wanted to go. And it's not like they abandoned God, they just stopped waiting.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about it is frustration, it convinces you. It's a spirit. It makes you think that God is taking too long. That's really the issue. It makes you think that God is taking too long. So now it's time for you to take control of the situation.
Take matters into your own hand.
That's where the danger is.
Oh. All right, welcome back. So we are still on Abraham and Sarah, using them as a case study. Remember, we said we're going to be digging and discovering biblical gems for the building or rebuilding of kingdom homes and relationship.
Yeah.
Previously, we talked about Adam and Eve and their relationship, and we spent almost 2 months in discussing that. Now we're going into Abraham and Sarah, looking at their life, particularly their marriage, and pointing out the do's and don'ts of marriage from the way they handled their marriage. Last week, we talked about surviving the wait. Obviously, we know that you cannot talk about the story of Abraham and Sarah without talking about faith.
There was a lot of waiting periods for them.
Yes, they are the father of faith for a reason. That's because they had the tenacity to keep going even when it doesn't look like it was going to happen, right? And so waiting, or how do couples survive
the waiting
period, especially when the promise seems to be delayed, right? This week we're talking about
what happens when faith meets frustration in the waiting.
Yes, last week we talked about surviving the waiting, essentially focusing more on faith. This week, we're talking about something that a lot of people don't usually talk about. There is a lot of threat to faith. And we, a lot of times, say fear is a threat to faith. A lot of times we'll say doubt is a threat to faith. We'll say your environment is a threat to faith. But we don't usually talk about frustration being a threat.
A big one.
Faith. And it's a big one. In fact, probably the most common one. Because everybody can relate to faith. You know what I mean? I remember a pastor, Bishop Oyedepo of Winners Chapel. He says that when they started their ministry, one person, 2 people would show up to service, and they never once complained. They never once had a sad face. They never once said, oh, this is not working. Instead, they would go into thanksgiving. They would thank God. They would sing praises. They would rejoice. They would jubilate because at least one person showed up. And then now one has become more than 1 million worldwide, right? And it's that idea of knowing that thanksgiving is a spiritual weapon when you are on your faith journey. Now, in that it may not look like what it needs to look like right now, but I'm going to thank God regardless. That's somebody who has trained himself. Right? To understand that spiritual weapon. You know, the Bible talks about in the book of Hebrews how strong meat is reserved for those who are of age in the faith, but more importantly, for those who, through reason of exercise, through reason of use, rather, has developed or exercised their discernment. In other words, even if you don't have the age or the experience, but by reason of consistent use of your discernment, of your spiritual gift, of your spiritual weapon, of your spiritual knowledge and understanding, you grow from the stage of milk to meat, right? So that's what we're talking about today. What happens when faith meets frustration in the waiting, saying that frustration is a faith killer.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
That frustration is a thief that robs people of the promise. And we can all relate to frustration.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've been frustrated before.
Yeah, and it, just taking it back to our case study of Abraham and Sarah, they were in a waiting period in the process of wanting to have a child. And in that period, I mean, it took a long time.
Yeah.
And that time, they have faith, but it definitely turned into frustration.
Absolutely.
Because they started making decisions that started to look like it made sense, but you could tell it was made from frustration.
Yeah.
It was made from, I just got to figure something out.
Yeah.
It was made from, I'm tired of waiting. And a lot of times we find ourselves in there. You know, when you look at different Bible characters, it's easy to judge them because it's like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. I mean, we talked about Adam and Eve, and, we put some pressure on Eve. We also did with Adam based on what we know now. But for them in that moment, and which a lot of us find ourselves in many different aspects of our lives, it's easy to say
Then do
here
Yeah.
than when you're actually
from where we stand.
Exactly. Then when you're actually in that situation. And many people can relate to the story of Abraham, Sarah, especially when it comes to bearing a child and having a child.
When it comes to promises.
Or when it comes to any promises, right? Just that waiting sometimes can drive people crazy.
Yeah.
It's like when you're so expectant for something and you're so like, you know it will happen. It's like there's nothing really stopping it from happening. So why is it not happening? That process, that moment alone can drive people crazy, and it can lead to so much frustration. And then we start making decisions not through faith anymore, but through frustration. And a lot of people find themselves in a bind when that happens.
Absolutely. So one of the first things that happens or let me put it this way, one of the first danger of frustration, and this is why we got to watch out and be careful not to allow the enemy to use frustration as a tool.
Exactly.
And I said it that way on purpose because frustration is a tool of the enemy to steal or rob us
of our faith,
of the promise.
Yes, of the promise.
Of the promise, right? It's a tool. Again, remember we talked about how last week our emotions are part of our fabrication. It's part of who we are as a person, as people, and things like that.
Help it.
And the ability to feel that is what makes us human. Yep. But what makes us different from animals is that we have control over these emotions. Yeah. Otherwise, we will be animalistic, we'll be beastly in our nature because we cannot control our anger. We can't control our laughter. We can't. It becomes weird when you don't have a control over your flesh, your emotion, and things like that. It's not easy, but the Holy Spirit helps us, right? Frustration is part of the emotion that God has given us. It stems from impatience, right? It stems from this instant gratification,
wanting it fast, right then, right now.
It stems from hastiness and haughtiness, right? It stems from so many things that can lead to frustration. It stems from anger, right? All of these things, right? And to be frustrated is not a sin. In and of itself, it's not a bad thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? I can be frustrated that NEPA would not bring the lights when I need it in Nigeria. I can be frustrated that my package that I ordered on Amazon is taking forever to arrive. I've paid for it. They told me it was going to be here yesterday. Yeah. It didn't come. I needed it yesterday, but I can wait till today. And I'm waiting, and it still hasn't come. I'm calling them, and they're not answering the phone. What's going on? I'm frustrated. Nothing wrong with that. I'm human, right? But the key here is what happens when we allow frustration to dilute or to be mixed in with our faith in the waiting. Number one, danger of frustration is that frustration makes decisions shortcuts to look wise. Frustration makes shortcuts look wise. Do you follow what I'm saying? Yeah. In other words, it says, you know what? I'm frustrated right now. I can't wait for this to happen. Yeah. Let me figure something out. Yeah. And in my figuring something out, I think to myself that I'm wise. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, as long as we get to the goal, that's all that matters. Yeah. Going back to Abraham and Sarah. Yeah. God promised us a child. It promised them a child. A promised child. And it's been taking forever. They put the order in. Yeah. Right? It's been promised that it's going to, you know what I'm saying? It's been promised that it would be delivered. Yeah. Hey, we got your order. Thanks for sending it over. We're putting it together. We're going to send it out to you. They said, okay, no problem. Thank you. Year one, they're waiting. Oh, now what's going on? Year two, what's going on? Now it's taking forever. What do? We say, you know what? I'm not waiting on that delivery anymore. I'm going to go down the street and go get something. Yeah. Anything that I can find. Yeah. As long as I have it. Yeah. And what we don't realize, and this is, it takes a bit of discernment to know the difference between the promise and the similitude of the promise. Something that looks like the promise, but isn't the promise. Yes. We've got to be careful to discern the difference between the two. So frustration makes shortcuts look wise. Yeah. You know, the crazy thing about that is, it doesn't necessarily mean that person abandoned God. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, because if you even look at the story of Abraham and Sarah, they still believed. Mm-hmm. They still had faith. Yeah. But it makes it seem like, you know what, this decision I'm making, it makes bad decisions look like it makes sense. Yeah. Like it makes it look like, you know, maybe this is the way God wanted it to go. And it's not like they abandoned God. They just stopped waiting. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. And the crazy thing about it is frustration, it convinces you. It's a spirit. It makes you think that God is taking too long. That's really the issue. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It makes you think that God is taking too long. So now it's time for you to take control of the situation. Take matters into your own hand. That's where the danger is. Of frustration. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and frustration, when we're not careful, frustration will make us take the place of God. Yes. That's another danger of frustration. Yeah. Frustration puts us in a position in a place where we're taking the position of God in our life. When it comes to promises, there are multiple things that work in promise. There's the promiser, right? Mm-hmm. There's the promisee. And then there's the promise itself. And in between all that is the waiting or the process of the promise, or the process to the promise. To the promise, yeah. Right? And a lot can happen within that whole logistics of promise being made and promise being fulfilled. Yeah. You know, we talked about it. I've talked about it sometimes before, how the children of Israel, the older generation who didn't make it into the promised land, they met God, the promise maker, right? And the children, the ones who actually got into the promise, they met God, the promise keeper. Yes. The fulfilling God, the all-fulfilling God, the all-promising God, and the all-fulfilling God. Yeah. And there's a lot that goes on between that experience, between the all-promising God and the all-fulfilling God. Yeah. You know, the Old Testament, all-promising God. The New Testament, all-fulfilling God. Yeah. And so if you don't know the all-promising God, you would think that there is no all-fulfilling God. Mm-hmm. But when you've met the all-fulfilling God, and that's all you've known, you get it twisted and think that there is no all-promising God. Mm-hmm. Is it making sense, right? So we got to be careful to know the balance between the God who promises and the God who fulfills his promise.
And what's in between.
And what happens
is what helps us bridge it.
What kills frustration.
Yes.
Because absolutely. The danger. What are the dangers of frustration?
I want to combine this two because I feel like around time you gave a second one, which is good, taking the place of God. Mm-hmm. The two I want to combine, it's like a twofer, right? Mm-hmm. Frustration, it distorts our perspective, meaning we're now focused on the problem rather than the promise. And frustration delays the promise.
It distorts the promise.
It distorts our perspective
of the promise. Gotcha.
And then delays the promise because it works hand in hand in a way if you think about it, right? When it distorts your perspective, you're not focused on the problem. That's what Sarah did. She started focusing on the issue. She's supposed to have a child by now. Why doesn't she have the child? Fine. Let me put matters in my own hand. Abraham, go sleep with Hagar. Have the child. Now they had the child, but guess what? The promise is not fulfilled yet because it's not their child. You understand what I'm saying? But now the promise is even delayed even longer because they don't even have their child. But now they have this situation they have to figure out now. So it distorts your perspective because you're not focused on the promise anymore. Yeah. When you're focused on the problem, you start running all over the place trying to solve the problem rather than just focusing on God said this. I'm going to hold on to that. While I'm holding on, I'm going to be thanking him because I already see the promise. I'm going to be worshiping because I already see the promise. Rather than focusing on that, when you focus on the problem, you're doing everything but relying on God. And what does that do? It delays the promise. Because now you've put more obstacles in the way when God didn't send you. You understand what I'm saying? So I feel like those two kind of work hand in hand in a little bit, where it's like it distorts our perspective. It messes with our view of things.
And I would just add to that and say frustration also derails us from the promise. So we've got frustration distorts your perspective of the promise. And the distortion we're talking about here is a blurred vision of what that should look like. When you're frustrated, you
can't see clearly,
you can't think clearly, and you're in that spot where anything can look like the promise. That's the distortion of the promise, right? Whereas like a child is a child.
Yeah.
Whether it's a boy or a girl, it really doesn't matter. A child is a child. Because what Haggai, I mean, the way they went about it was not good, but the child they give birth to is a child. It's not a bad thing.
It wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't. That's the thing.
It's not. A child will always be a blessing.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
But a child is different from the promised
child. Exactly.
Right? So, but that's the distortion we're talking about. Where anything begins to look like the thing when we are in that season of frustration, when we allow frustration to mix with our faith.
And they realize it after the fact.
And we realize it after the fact. And then you said it also delays the promise.
You said derails it.
But I think it derails us. The delay comes from the derailing of the promise. In other words, when we have a distorted vision or perspective of the promise, and we receive what we believe to be the promise, even though it's not the promise, we tend to end the journey of faith.
Yeah.
Right? Because remember, and I've said this multiple times on this platform, that faith is not in how big, it's not in how strong, but in how long. Faith is in how long can we keep. That's why Jesus said, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, because he wasn't really caring for, it's got to be this big, it's got to be, no. Put it in the ground.
You have faith, period.
Let it sit there and let it just grow and keep growing. And then the Bible talks about so that when it grows, it becomes the tallest tree in the whole bush.
But it doesn't just become the tallest out of nowhere. Exactly. There's a waiting period. It's time.
You see? So So what happens is when we get this distorted version of the promise, we stop the journey of faith,
which derails the promise,
even longer, and delays the promise, or derails us from the promise.
Yes.
Right now we're busy focusing on whatever this thing is, and we're not paying attention to what God's promise is. And this is where we got to be careful about frustration. I will encourage you, because of our time, that instead of frustration, why don't you make a decision today? Like I said last week, take your timetable out of the equation. And lean on God's own timetable. He is the one who makes the promise. He is the one who will fulfill the promise. He is the one who gave the vision. He is the one who will make provision. Hey, you walk all over any vision. You didn't give yourself the vision. He gave you the vision. And he will give the provision towards the vision.
And it's so worth it too.
Yeah.
I think from experience, we've realized and seen, even personally in our life, that waiting for God, truly waiting for God, not stepping in his place, not trying to find shortcuts, not trying to find the solution and move things faster, waiting for God's time and waiting for him to fulfill his promise is so worth it.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating, it can be tiring, it can be lonely, it can look like you're just crazy, but at the end of it all, once he fulfills that promise, or everything that happened prior to that would not even matter anymore.
Exactly.
It's going to be so worth it, because the God that we serve is such an amazing, a faithful God, that in the end of it all, that promise makes all the difference in your life. You know?
Yeah, and it's only frustrating because we have, again, a warped sense of expectation.
Yeah.
Right? Remove. The Bible talks about how be anxious for nothing, but with prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, make your request known unto God. And leave it there. Leave it there and live your life. Can I reemphasize that? Live your life. Stop sitting there worrying about what only God can do.
Yes.
I think that's where our frustration comes in. Like, for example, we put an order in. Once we've sent it out,
it's going to come.
Just trust and believe that at some point it will come. But believe that it is settled and it is done. And whenever it comes, it comes. That's how we live our life. Otherwise, we will just give ourselves so much frustration, depression, that we would think God is silent on us when he really isn't. We're just not patient enough to wait on him, right? A guy came, did what she had to do. At the end of the day, they received their version of the promise, and it didn't seem right. Yeah. It didn't feel right. Yeah. And at the end of the day, they had to get rid of it and continue to wait on God's promise. You know, we've been there before. We've experienced that before. We've had a situation brought to us that looked like the right thing, but it never felt like the right thing. And I would always tell my wife, this thing is not feeling right. Like, I would rather just let it go. I would rather not do it than to do it thinking, well, it
looks like
if we do this,
it can work.
It all works. No,
it's all the same.
God was like, no. When I spoke to you, this is not the vision that I gave you.
Exactly.
And I said, yes, sir. No problem, sir. And I hands off.
Yeah.
I took my hands off it, and I thank God today that we did.
Yes.
That's the beauty of waiting on the Lord. Exactly. The beauty of waiting.
Yeah.
All right. Our time is fast spent.
Yes.
We unfortunately got to go on this episode. Come back again next week.
We continue on Abraham and
Sarah. All right. I hope we've shared a tip or two to help solidify your kingdom union, not only with yourself, but also with others, and most importantly with God on today.
Yes. Don't forget to like, share with your friends and family. Hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel so you can get more notifications and know when we drop more episodes. And make sure you comment down below. Let us know what you think.
And until next time, be the light,
be the salt,
and remember,
all things are possible if you believe.